Welcome back to Rapture Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and get ready for another story you won't forget. Let's dive back to the story. Elena Hartmann grew up in a quiet Swiss town, where mornings began with the sound of ovens and the scent of fresh bread. Her parents were bakers who believed in honest work and simple living, and from them Elena learned patience, discipline, and humility. While other children played, she sat in the corner of the shop with borrowed books, teaching herself mathematics and economics long before she understood how powerful those subjects would become in her life. She noticed patterns in numbers the way others notice melodies, and her parents encouraged her curiosity even when they didn't fully understand it. Their bakery struggled, but Elena never complained. She watched carefully, learning how small decisions could determine whether a business survived or collapsed. As she grew older, Elena's brilliance became impossible to ignore. Scholarships carried her from her small town to elite universities, where she studied finance with quiet intensity that unsettled her peers. She spoke little, listened much, and absorbed knowledge like a sponge. Professors describe her as unassuming but dangerous, not because she was cruel, but because her mind moved several steps ahead of everyone else. While others chased prestige, Elena chased understanding. She wanted to know how systems worked, how power flowed, and how greed quietly corrupted institutions meant to serve people. By her early 30s, Elena had built Aurelia's financial group from nothing but strategic investments and relentless discipline. She quietly acquired banks, investment firms, and financial institutions across Europe and beyond, always operating through layers of anonymity. Despite her immense wealth, she chose a modest life, believing comfort dulled judgment. To the outside world, she was just another professional woman with an average income. To the financial world's highest circles, she was an unseen force shaping markets without ever stepping into the spotlight. Victor Langford entered Elena's life like a storm disguised as charm. He was confident, well-dressed, and carried the unmistakable arrogance of someone born into money. As the heir to the Langford real estate empire in London, Victor believed wealth was meant to be displayed loudly. He spoke of success as conquest and people as assets. Yet Elena initially mistook his confidence for strength. He was captivated by her calm demeanor, seeing it not as intelligence but as softness. To Victor, Elena was refreshing, simple, quiet, and seemingly unimpressive. Their courtship was fast and intense. Victor showered Elena with attention, insisting on choosing restaurants, trips, and even her clothing. Elena noticed the subtle control, but dismissed it, believing compromise was part of love. She never spoke of Aurelia's financial group, never hinted at her influence, and never corrected Victor when he assumed she earned far less than him. She wanted to be loved as Elena, not as a balance sheet. Victor, on the other hand, enjoyed the power imbalance, believing he'd found a woman who would never challenge him. Marriage exposed Victor's true nature. His compliments turned into instructions, then into criticisms. He corrected Elena in public, mocked her frugality, and discouraged her from maintaining friendships he couldn't dominate. He framed his behavior as guidance, insisting he knew better because he was successful. Elena listened silently, filing away each slight. She had spent her life studying systems of power, and she recognized a pattern unfolding in her own home. Behind Victor's confidence, the Langford Empire was quietly rotting. Years of reckless investments and poor leadership had left the family business dangerously over-leveraged. Victor ignored warning signs, preferring lavish parties and risky ventures that fed his ego. Elena noticed the inconsistencies immediately: late payments, frantic calls, subtle panic masked by bravado. She offered gentle suggestions, but Victor dismissed them, laughing at the idea that his financially dependent wife could teach him anything about money. That was when Madeleine Cross entered the picture. Madeleine was a glamorous socialite who thrived on attention and excess. She flattered Victor relentlessly, reinforcing his delusions of superiority. Their affair began discreetly but quickly grew expensive. Madeleine encouraged Victor to spend recklessly, convincing him that luxury proved masculinity. She siphoned money from him under the guise of business opportunities and emotional support, all while secretly engaging in fraudulent schemes of her own. Elena sensed the betrayal long before she had proof. The late nights, the sudden secrecy, the unfamiliar perfume clinging to Victor's clothes, it all pointed to a truth she had already accepted. Yet she did not confront him. Instead, she watched patiently. Years of building Aurelia's financial group had taught her that timing mattered more than emotion. Victor believed he was in control. Elena knew better. The breaking point came over something trivial: Elena made a small purchase using the credit card Victor had given her. Nothing extravagant, just an item she needed. Victor exploded. He accused her of being irresponsible, of embarrassing him, of forgetting her place. His anger was not about money. It was about power. That night, in a fit of spite, Victor called the bank and demanded her car be canceled, eager to remind her who held authority in their marriage. Elena listened quietly as he made the call, her expression unreadable. She said nothing when he ended the call with a smug smile, satisfied with his petty victory. To Victor, the act symbolized dominance. To Elena, it was clarity. The illusion she had maintained for years shattered completely. She realized that hiding her power had not protected her. It had enabled her humiliation. That same night, Elena made calls of her own. Not emotional calls, not desperate ones, but precise, calculated instructions. By morning, Aurelia's financial group had begun consolidating its hold over several institutions tied directly to the Langford Empire. Elena was done waiting. If Victor wanted to play power games, she would end them permanently. Victor's life continued as usual, unaware of the storm forming beneath his feet. He spent lavishly, boasting publicly about deals that were already collapsing. Madeline pushed him further, encouraging risk after risk. Investors grew uneasy, banks tightened credit, and rumors began circulating about the Langford family's instability. Victor blamed everyone except himself, convinced external forces were sabotaging him. Meanwhile, Elena moved silently through boardrooms where her name commanded instant respect. Executives stood when she entered, regulators listened when she spoke, and decisions were made within minutes at her request. She didn't seek revenge, she sought resolution. Every move was legal, ethical, and devastatingly effective. One by one, the financial pillars supporting Victor's world began to crumble. At home, Victor grew increasingly frustrated. His authority over Elena no longer brought him satisfaction. She seemed calmer, freer, almost relieved. He mistook her serenity for defeat, never imagining it was confidence. The balance of power had shifted, and Victor was too blinded by arrogance to notice. The financial summit was meant to be Victor's redemption. Desperate to regain relevance, he attended, hoping to attract investors and repair his reputation. The room buzzed with anticipation as industry leaders gathered. Victor sat proudly, unaware that his fate had already been sealed. When the keynote speaker was announced, he barely listened until he heard Elena's name. She walked onto the stage with composed elegance. Introduced as the visionary CEO and founder of Aurelia's Financial Group, gasps rippled through the room. Victor froze, his mind refusing to process the truth unfolding before him. This was not his quiet, dependent wife. This was power embodied, calm and undeniable. Elena spoke about ethical banking, accountability, and integrity with quiet authority. She never mentioned Victor, never acknowledged him. Yet every word dismantled the world he had built on arrogance. By the time the applause ended, Victor's career, reputation, and pride lay in ruins. After the summit, consequences came swiftly. Victor's father disowned him publicly, blaming his recklessness for the family's downfall. Madeline's fraudulent activities were exposed, forcing her to flee under investigation. Friends disappeared, doors closed, and Victor found himself alone, stripped of wealth and status. Elena filed for divorce without bitterness. She did not seek alimony or revenge. Her victory was not in Victor's suffering, but in reclaiming herself. She returned control to institutions responsibly, using her influence to rebuild rather than destroy. The world now knew her name, and she carried it with grace. In time, Elena met Julian Moore, a man who saw her not as power or possession, but as an equal. With him, she found peace. Her story became a quiet reminder that true strength does not shout. It waits, endures, and rises when the moment is right. Elena's new public identity reshaped every corner of her life. Invitations poured in from governments, universities, and financial institutions, all eager to hear from the woman who had quietly controlled markets for years. Yet Elena remained grounded, choosing carefully where to appear and what to support. She remembered her parents' bakery, the exhaustion in her eyes, and the fragile line between stability and collapse. That memory guided her decisions as she began redirecting Aurelia's Financial Group's influence toward ethical lending, small business support, and transparent banking practices. She wanted power to serve, not dominate. Victor, meanwhile, struggled to survive in a world that no longer recognized him. Accustomed to privilege, he lacked the resilience required to rebuild. Former allies avoided him, and creditors showed no mercy. For the first time, he experienced the consequences of arrogance without protection. He replayed moments from his marriage, realizing too late how deeply he had underestimated Elena. Regret followed him relentlessly, but remorse could not undo damage already done. Elena felt no satisfaction watching Victor fall. Instead, she felt closure. She had proven something not just to him, but to herself, that silence was not weakness, and patience was not submission. Letting go of the past freed her to step fully into the future she had long delayed. As Aurelius Financial Group expanded its social impact, Elena launched initiatives focused on financial literacy, particularly for women and young entrepreneurs. She believed ignorance was the most profitable weapon used against ordinary people, and she was determined to dismantle it. Her speeches were calm but powerful, rooted in lived experience rather than abstract theory. People listened because they sensed authenticity, not performance. Julian Moore entered her life gradually, without spectacle. He was thoughtful, accomplished in his own field, and uninterested in status games. Unlike Victor, Julian asked questions and listened to answers. He respected Elena's boundaries and admired her discipline without trying to control it. Their connection grew from mutual understanding rather than convenience or power. For Elena, this relationship felt unfamiliar yet safe. She had grown used to guarding herself, but Julian's presence required no defense. He valued her brilliance without being threatened by it, and for the first time, Elena felt truly seen. Victor attempted to reach out, driven by desperation rather than clarity. His messages were long, emotional, and filled with regret. Elena read them once, then archived them without response. Closure did not require conversation. She had already forgiven him, not for his sake, but for her own peace. The media eventually moved on, replacing Victor's scandal with newer stories. Elena, however, continued to influence quietly, refusing to become a celebrity. She understood that visibility was a tool, not a goal. Power, when wielded responsibly, did not need constant validation. At night, Elena often reflected on the journey that had brought her there. From a baker's daughter to a global financial leader, her path had never been easy, but had been honest. She carried no shame in her success, only responsibility. The Langford Empire was officially dissolved, its assets redistributed under strict oversight. What remained was a cautionary tale taught in business schools about entitlement, mismanagement, and ego. Elena allowed the case to be studied openly, believing transparency was the best teacher. Madeline Cross was eventually arrested abroad, her schemes exposed in full. She faded from relevance as quickly as she had risen, proving that deception without substance never lasted. Elena followed the case with distant interest, seeing it as another reminder that shortcuts always carry consequences. Julian stood beside Elena through it all, never intruding, never withdrawing. His consistency became a quiet anchor in her life, reinforcing her belief that partnership did not require sacrifice of self. With time, Elena reconnected with her parents' old town. She invested in community programs, rebuilt small businesses, and funded education without attaching her name to plaques or buildings. The people there never fully knew the extent of her power, only that opportunity had returned. She visited the old bakery site one morning, now renovated into a cooperative workspace for young entrepreneurs. Standing there, Elena felt a full-circle peace that no summit or award had ever given her. This, she realized, was success. Julian joined her, hand in hand, sharing the quiet moment without words. They both understood what it meant. As years passed, Elena became a symbol of a different kind of leadership. Not loud, not aggressive, but deliberate and principled. She declined political office offers, preferring influence without ego. Her life balanced power with privacy, ambition with humility. Victor eventually disappeared from public life altogether. Whether by choice or circumstance, Elena never learned, and she no longer cared. His chapter in her life had closed completely. What remained was clarity. On a calm evening overlooking the city lights, Elena reflected on everything she had endured. Betrayal had taught her discernment. Silence had sharpened her strength. Love, once misused against her, had finally returned in its purest form. She no longer hid who she was, nor did she feel the need to prove it. Her peace came from alignment between values, actions, and purpose. Power had never been the goal. Integrity had. And in that quiet alignment, Elena Hartmann found the truest wealth of all. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.